at sharp at 10:25, awaiting Mr. Ujjwal Nikam ji, who is scheduled to come at around 10:25. So, moment he comes, we'll start the function. I will begin with a small prayer. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a pleasure and honor to welcome all of you on this pleasant Sunday morning. As you know, we are all here for the book launch of Who is Raising Your Children by Mr. Rajiv Malhotra and Srimati Vijaya Vishwanathan. Unfortunately, due to her preoccupations, she is not in a position to come here today. Before we go on to further program, I was just thinking of sharing some thoughts about the gist that I have read related to the book which was provided to us. My first introspective thought was it is a powerful reminder of who we are, where we come from, and what we reclaim for the Gen Next. In terms of demography of India, we all know that we are the youngest population of around 29 years on an average, and significant portion of our people are in the 20s and 30s with full of potential, ambition and drive. Many of them are, unfortunately or otherwise, at least mainly in cities, are convent educated, fluent in English, which is a strength, and deeply driven by the global trends happening around the globe. They excel in corporate boardrooms, lead cutting-edge startups, particularly of last 10 years, thrive in rapidly modernizing the economy. And yet, somewhere along the way, something crucial has been lost where there is some missing link which needs to be bridged. We have embraced the efficiency, innovation, and discipline of the West, but at the cost of forgetting wisdom, values, philosophies that shaped us for centuries. Our history, our traditions, and our rich legacy of thoughts are being sidelined, seen as outdated and irrelevant thoughts. Ironically, while we are looking westwards for inspiration, the West is turning to India. Yoga, Ayurveda, mindfulness, and science Indian practices are repackaged, rebranded, and sold back to us at a premium. Wokeism is proliferating. Honestly, my personal definition of this wokeism and view is that it is really a contradictory view to principles of nature, to my mind, is wokeism. Examples, same-sex marriages which are taking place today, which are unnatural, are happening. And more importantly, the worst part of that is that they are justified. Criticizing Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism, without even grasping its basics of it, has become a fashion statement today. Many more examples can be cited in the normal life related to this particular aspect. In fact, I came across a quote of Fateh Ali Sahab, who was born in Pakistan, spent most of his life in Canada, but absolutely used to love India like crazy. He used to say that India is a major civilizational country where you are systematically taught to hate your heritage and glorify the invaders who came to destroy you, and its absurdity is unfortunately called as secularism. This is exactly why Mr. Rajiv Malhotra's book is so very important, and it is a reminder that India's past is not a just collection of stories, but a treasure trove of insights for modern life. Our history is filled up with lessons on leadership, strategy, resilience. It's loud? Loud? Yeah. Our history is filled up with lessons on leadership, strategy, resilience, and ethics. The wisdom and learnings out of Mahabharata and Ramayana, the strategic brilliance of Chanakya, the discipline of our ancient warriors, these are not just the tales of the past, but blueprints for success in this modern world. I'm told, I have not verified, but what has been told is that the wars of Siddhi Johar and Afzal Khan, they are still the case studies which are taught in not only Pentagon but in the Harvard Business Schools. I do not know how many of us really, even amongst the new generation, even know how these wars are fought actually on the battleground just about 250 kilometers away from where we are. To the youth of India, therefore, this book is a great gift. It is an invitation to rediscover who we are, to realize our rich culture. It is a step towards ensuring that the Gen Next grows not just with degrees and high profile jobs in the corporate life, but with deep rooted sense of identity, wisdom that has stood the test of time. With this brief context setting, we look forward for an enlightening session after the launch of the book that will challenge we, the prominent citizens who are present here, and appreciate the nuances of our civilizational identity, which he has covered in this book, Who is Raising Your Children? We are confident that we all will immensely benefit by listening to Rajivji and get insights into this topic, which is socially today very much critical. With that small synopsis of my findings of that book, the gist which was provided, I now welcome today's guest of honor, chief guest, as well as none other than Mr. Rajiv Malhotra ji. May I now therefore invite Shilpa Ranjan to do the honors. Please present a bouquet to Ratan Sharda ji. Before that, let me introduce him. Ratan Sharda ji, of course, is a very household name for all of us, who is a RSS ideologue, well-known author, columnist, panelist, and we see him every day almost on all national television channels defending the right-wingers as well as our own heritage and culture. I request Shilpa Ranjanji to offer a bouquet to Mr. Ratan Sharda ji. We have the author in, of course, Bhushan Mardeji is our own trustee on the Bharat Manthan Foundation. So he needs no introduction, that is my presumption is. But may I therefore now request Shilpa Ranjanji to do the honors of felicitating Rajivji on this occasion. Now, some words introducing Mr. Rajiv Malhotra ji. It is with my great pleasure and honor to introduce a distinguished thinker and Hindutva ideologue, a scholar, author of international repute, Mr. Malhotra. A visionary intellectual and a fearless voice in contemporary discourse, Mr. Malhotra has dedicated his life to the rigorous studies of civilizational issues, philosophy, and intersection of tradition with modernity. Through his extensive research and thought provoking writings, he has challenged prevailing narratives and provided fresh perspectives on Indian heritage, culture, and global geopolitics. As the founder of Infinity Foundation, Mr. Malhotra has played a pivotal role in fostering original scholarships on knowledge systems. His books, including Breaking India, Being Different, Indra's Net, Snakes in the Ganga, The Battle for Sanskrit, amongst many others, quite a few of them are displayed outside the auditorium, have sparked meaningful discussions worldwide, influencing both academia and public thoughts. His ability to articulate complex ideas with clarity and depth has earned him widespread respect and recognition. Beyond this scholarship, Mr. Malhotra is a dynamic speaker, which we will witness today in any case, engaging audience across the globe with his insightful analysis and deep commitment to intellectual integrity.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So before I request Mr. Rajiv Malhotra to take the dais, let me welcome Mr. Ujjwal Nikamji, Advocate Ujjwal Nikamji. And he also needs no introduction as such to this crowd. Advocate Nikam, in any case, is a familiar face for all of us. He is a well-known lawyer and Indian special public prosecutor who has worked on prominent murder cases as also on terrorism cases for India. He helped prosecute suspects of 1993 Bombay bombings, Gulshan Kumar murder case, Pramod Mahajan case, 2018 Mumbai attacks. He is a strong nationalist and awarded Padmashri by the Government of India. May I request Shilpa Ranjanji to just felicitate Ujjwal Nikamji on this occasion, who is a chief guest for the function. With this little brief, may I request Rajiv Malhotra, in fact, we will have the release the book, request all of you to please release the book, launch the book. Sir, the dais is yours, Mr. Malhotra. Please.
Thank you. Namaste and thank you for inviting me. And I see a lot of alert, bright faces, and I'm looking forward to a good interaction with you. So what I want to do is give you a broad picture of the background and the context of this book, because you haven't read it, so I'll give you that. And then from there we'll go into more details. And this will set the stage for interaction. I look forward to good questions and tough questions, and we can all learn from each other. I'll learn from you also. So now when I do research, my background as a physicist influences my approach. In physics, you have the theoretical physicist who likes to theorize and come up with big theories and models on how things behave. And then there is the experimental physicist who comes up with many, many measurements and examples, and the two have to work together. If you have a theory, and then the experimental physicist comes up with data which doesn't fit the theory, you have to reject the theory. You cannot reject the data because that's what it is. It's evidence. In the case of law, because we have a prominent prosecutor here, the evidence has to fit the theory you are presenting. And the other side is going to shoot down and say, no, this evidence presents different theory. So the theoretical and the empirical data have to be consistent. So in writing a book, is a kind of investigation. Actually, I'm very glad you're here because it's a good way for me to explain. It's kind of investigative work on an area of some topic. And I've done many of these from a Bharatiya point of view. So when you are doing this investigation, you come up with a lot of data. And it's interesting that a lot of people know the data already, so that discovery of the data is not anything new necessarily. But connecting the dots into a theoretical framework is what distinguishes your contribution. Because you've come up with a thesis that explains this data. And then this thesis has to be tested to make sure that it is valid. You have to test it against lots of examples, lots of data to see if it makes sense. So there is a top-down process of constructing a framework which requires a lot of imagination, inspiration, meditative inspiration that, suddenly you say, aha, I now understand all of this. And then there is a bottom-up where you have data, evidence. So this book, like all the others I've done, I've published 16 books so far. And I have another 20 books to publish, 20 more in the works. It actually works. Not that I'm starting they're all, you see, when you are investigating a lot of things, you keep discovering some new item here, new evidence here, and then you have to say, okay, where does it fit? It fits in that particular framework. It's like, suppose you were investigating not one crime, but a whole example of many, many crimes. And when you find some evidence, it may fit into this crime or it may fit into that investigation. You don't know. We have to keep trying. Figure out how it fits. So I'm parallel investigating many things about our civilization, about the West, about what has been misrepresented, about what has been appropriated, misappropriated, about our own foolishness, all kind of things for the last 35 years. So in parallel, I have opened up many folders. I have a huge library of online folders, about 250,000 files that I have got. And so they keep getting organized into this book folder, that book folder. And then I sometimes say, okay, now this actually belongs in that place. Or this should be broken into 2 books because it's too big. Like that it goes on. So in that sense, my work is all parallel. It's not like I finish one, then start the other. I'm also working on 10 other things. So that is why I'm saying that I have to finish another 20 books in the next few years because I've been working on these for a very long time. And what happens is when many, many books come out, then the overall picture becomes clear because they're related. Otherwise, people say, okay, now you are talking about Hinduism. Why you written this book on artificial intelligence? आपको तो Hinduism के बारे में सीखना चाहिए. आप AI की बात कर रहे हैं. आपको क्या मालूम है? The point is, I was a computer scientist and my topic was AI. Long back before there was a field called AI, we were doing this kind of thing ahead of its time. And the point is, it's very related to the future of our civilization, the future of narratives, the future of education, the future of who controls the discourse. So when I started writing about AI in 2017, people didn't realize that this is why it is important. So I was attacked as कि आप ये क्या कर रहे हैं, कभी AI के बारे में लिखते हैं, कभी ये लिखते हैं, क्या करते हैं, not understanding that this all fits nicely. So that's why I have to finish the rest of my books, publish them, because then it makes everything clearer, you see. Now this book talks about how. So first I'll tell you this, that my books can be classified broadly into those that are disruptive and those that are constructive. Disruptive is that there are forces that are harming us. So to use a medical term, disruptive would be that there are germs, viruses, and you want to disrupt them, get rid of them, finish them off. That is disruptive. And then the constructive is you want to give good nutrition, keep healthy, not eliminate anything, but bring in good things. So the constructive is the bringing good things about our culture. We've written 14 volumes on history of Indian science and technology, as an example. We've translated many volumes of what the Buddhists had in Nalanda, which the Tibetans took. And Nalanda was destroyed, but the Dalai Lama brought it back, so we're translating some of that. So that's a constructive. So there are many constructive things we do, and there are disruptive things we do. So in the disruptive category, where we are criticizing, this book is a part of that. One of the big themes we came up with is called Hindu phobia, which is a term that I started in the 90s, and now it's become very popular. Another theme within disruptive is breaking India, which is also a term I coined. I wrote a book with that title. So the breaking India theme, this is volume 3 that we are releasing. This is volume 3 of the breaking India theme. The volume 1 was basically talking about how foreign forces are intervening in India, in the villages, in the poor areas of India, where they're trying to create bhed and divisiveness. Dravidians versus Aryans, so there's north-south divide. The big Dalit divide. You see, Maoists coming, Christians, missionaries converting. So these are all divisive, breaking India forces. They break the unity of the fabric of Bharat. So that was breaking India 1.0. The target of that breaking India forces was poor people, less educated people, vulnerable people. Then the second breaking India was snakes in the Ganga, which talked about not poor people, not village people, but Indians in Harvard, Indians in TIS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Indians in various colleges, in all over you have these prestigious liberal arts colleges, Ashoka, that kind of place. So the theme there, Breaking India 2.0, was how these Breaking India forces are destroying the future leaders of the country who go to these Ivy Leagues, who come from great homes. And their parents are well off and they are influential people. They are influential people. They are leaders of tomorrow. So they are doing this in places like World Economic Forum, Harvard, these liberal arts colleges. And they are promoting things like Khalistan. They are promoting things like Kashmir separatism. They are promoting all these kind of things and poisoning our young minds. And what I pointed out is that there is a Mahindra Center at Harvard. What is their work? Their work is not pro-India in Harvard. I pointed out that they are following the left-wing trend to bring troublemakers and make a lot of sensational noise against India and condemn India and all that. So that from there, that intellectual contribution goes to the US Congress, US Senate, then they pass all these resolutions that India doesn't have human rights, then it goes to international agencies. So all of it starts in the academic think tanks. And then we talked about, in that book, we also talked about there's a Mittal Center for South Asia Studies, but you look at who are the speakers. I mean, there's no way they'll ever allow me in there, or the Mahindra Center, or even be able to ask a question, because they know that this guy is going to disrupt their work. So they are basically very carefully curated and controlled who will speak, what they'll speak on, and to create a sort of knowledge which is sort of very authentic sounding, and brainwash a lot of people, not only our people there, but all the Westerners, all the people who come from around the world, because the credibility is so high. So if the Breaking India forces have captured the highest reputation universities, they have accomplished something, because now from there they can spread a lot of poison against us. So that is Breaking India 2.0. And then Breaking India 3.0, which is this book, says how they are actually poisoning young children in India through the school system. So this is K through 12. So this is a different kind of Breaking India. This is Breaking India by weaponizing our own children against our heritage through the kind of curriculum, through the kind of pedagogy that they have. So that's the positioning, that's how this book is positioned. Now, the forces, the question is, who are these forces? Broadly speaking, you can call them globalists. Globalists, not just people like George Soros, but also Omi Diyar, also World Economic Forum has a whole lot of them. They are basically people who have a kind of Marxist philosophy that nationalism is something wrong, bad, because nation states, nationalism creates wars and all that stuff. Not only it creates trouble with the neighborhood, with others, but nationalism also oppresses a lot of people because nationalism is sort of bad thing. And so this globalist, nice talk that we should be all one and global, this and that. But China is not interested in disarming its nation. The United States does not want to get rid of nationalism. They're very proud of the founding fathers and the value of the dollar. I mean, they're very patriotic. France is very patriotic. Russia is very patriotic. The Arab countries are very clear about who they are. Why we are trying to prove ourselves to other people that by saying that we can get rid of our nationalism and become global. So this is the whole agenda of these globalists. But globalists also are multiple kinds in competing globalists. There is certainly the Western left-wing globalism, which is very Marxist oriented. But then you have a Christian globalism, which wants to create a Christian state, Christian world. And you have the Caliphate globalism. Caliphate is a globalism. It's a globalism system which says the whole world should be under Sharia. That's a globalist model. And then you have Chinese who want their Belt and Road Initiative to be the globalism for running the world. This is a vision of how the world should run, with them, of course, being at the top. So there are competing globalisms also. So one can ask, where is the Bharatiya globalism? Do we have a globalism? And where is it? Is it taught in the pedagogy? Is it what the media is reflecting? Is it what policies are based on? So we are a hodgepodge. We talk about IKS, but as we mention in this book, the educational policies, some of these educational policies that we are criticizing are not based on Indian values. There is IKS in a corner somewhere as a separate subject, but when they are teaching sociology, when they're teaching anthropology, when they're teaching history, when they're teaching, all these other subjects, they seem to be getting these ideas from the West. But there is IKS also somewhere, but there is all this other stuff also somewhere. So this IKS should not be like a ghetto somewhere on the corner. It should permeate all the subjects. You have an IKS approach to whatever, science or whatever, mind sciences, psychology. IKS has to be part of all these departments and not something separate from it. And we are pointing out that when it comes to educational pedagogy, it is not based on Vedic values, on Vedic philosophy. It is based on imported models of education. So this is a disconnect we have in our own scheme of things. Now, we also point out the globalist agendas of breaking India for children and education. There are many conduits. It's coming through conduits. So there are these international NGOs like Planned Parenthood, like that, various ones we are mentioning here. And they come and sometimes work with the state government, like Jharkhand is a case study we've done in this book, of the effect on tribals in education, that is foreign funded, foreign coming in. And Niti Aayog is party to all this. Niti Aayog is a sort of a gateway to India for the globalists. It's like the welcome mat for globalists. Globalists welcome, and we will take you to wherever and help you facilitate everything. So a lot of the policies are written by McKinsey and Price Waterhouse and Ernst & Young and Boston Consulting Group and Booz Allen and whatnot. I mean, I'm not anything against them, but I'm saying that we don't have Bharatiya our own views on those things. Take, for example, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, which is a woke concept. And that has been brought everywhere. Everyone in Mumbai, all these industrialists are very proud championing ESG, DEI. So there's an index which these consulting companies have are evaluating your your company based on their idea of sustainability, their idea of diversity. These are not Indian ideas. We mentioned that. So, for instance, sustainability, sustainability and equity, social justice, governance. These are the criteria they are using is not made in India. It's made somewhere else. So the rules of the game are from somewhere else. You're playing the game, but somebody is making the rules. The referees are from somewhere else who evaluate. Okay, so you are in a sense colonized by these indexes because it's not something that we originated, and we don't have a whole lot to say. I don't know of any industrialist who stood up and said, I don't like this particular criteria for measuring my DEI. We have our own idea of what is diversity, and we are the most diverse place there is. So we will teach you about diversity according to our view. So that kind of confidence our people don't have. And so we've brought in these diversity type ideas and just accepted them. And I have a whole chapter on the Indian idea of diversity and tables comparing. This is the DEI woke idea, and this is the diversity that we would have. So if you look at the education, we also have a whole chapter on it's called the Vedic philosophy of education. It's called that way. It's a 40-50 page chapter. It's a very detailed chapter on how we would, according to our tradition, approach the education of children, and how it is different from these imported models that are being brought in. So you would think that this book would be one of the most important books that the IKS people would champion, but we don't even have any interest because this is not called IKS; it's called something else. So it's also there's also a kind of a limited jargon view that we have in this country. This is an IKS book because it's talking about, it's a comparative study, a Purva Paksha on Western education compared to IKS education. It's basically like that. But there is not we've done many launches, wonderful launches, Ratanji, many others in Delhi we did. But there is silence on the part of the Niti Aayog people, the ORF people, and the these IKS people, because they're protecting their turf and defending and being very so as if we are doing something wrong. So now let's talk about sustainability, development, diversity, social justice, etc. These are some of the main concepts of education. And comprehensive sexualizing education, which we talk about in this book, which we think is a serious problem in the way they are doing it. Sustainability, we have the whole concept of farming, the way we do it is sustainable, the whole concept of recycling, the whole concept of not too much consumerism, because so much consumerism is not sustainable. If you look at the per capita consumption of an American, in terms of how much he consumes of various things, energy and this material he consumes, and if you say all 8 billion people per capita will consume that way, you will need 5 or 6 planets to get so much raw material. You won't be able to do it. So obviously, the Western idea of consumerism is not sustainable. But nobody wants to attack that, because that's bad for business. Because unless you increase consumption, your share value is not going to go up. So on the one hand, you're talking about sustainability. On the other hand, you're not willing to touch this idea of consumption, and creating a society where the consumption is sort of balanced with what the earth can manage. So sustainability is more about, as interpreted now, it's more about making sure that we don't run out of fossil fuels, we don't destroy the water because the fish will die, is bad for the fishing industry. The reason for not polluting the water isn't because the fish have life and fish have rights. It's not because we respect the earth having rights, the way that is our tradition. That Mother Earth has rights. And so the sustainability is we have to respect the rights of Mother Earth. Not that Earth is our property and we don't want to damage property. कि आपकी प्रॉपर्टी में कुछ डैमेज हो जाएगा तो उसको environmentalism is all about making sure that industrial raw material doesn't run out, energy, fossil fuels don't run out, we don't pollute so it will be bad for our health. It's all human centric. It's not nature centric. So our culture is that nature has her own legitimacy, rights. It's not that nature is man's property and we are protecting it so that we are not damaging our property. It's not that nature is our property at all. Nature is not man's property. So the starting point, the premise is different. The premise of nature's rights is very different than the premise of nature as property. So it tells you where the sustainability goes. And also they have these indexes of ethics, all kind of indexes. So I asked them that, okay, according to our values, the meat industry should have a negative, huge problem because of the way they treat animals. The pharma industry, the way they treat animals for medical testing is horrible. There's no cameras allowed, there's no rating, nobody questions that because it's going to be bad for the share price of the pharma industry and they're very powerful people. So, all this is a hoax. So when they tell you that we're going to rate you and this is your rating, you need to have the courage to talk back and say, okay, where did you get your index from and why don't you consider our values? I mean, we have a lot of good Hindus, a lot of Jains I've talked to, they're very concerned, very sensitive in their Jain philosophy, which is very good. Jain philosophy, very concerned about the rights of all the animals, all the nature and all that. And yet, when they're corporate industry, when they're as an industrialist, they change the hat, switch to turn on a different switch, and here comes these people who are evaluating their sustainability, giving them a rating, and suddenly they are going along with that also. So there's a double life. It's a contradiction. It's a bit of a hypocrisy. There was something called Dharma Index about 30 years ago, 20 or some years ago. The Dow Jones and the Financial Times of London, one or two others, started something called Islamic Index because Muslims were having a lot of money, Arabs had a lot of money, and they wanted to invest in the Western world. But they said we want it to be Sharia compliant, so we don't invest in things that are not good for Islam. They're very sensible. They should do that. So they created an Islamic index and said we will evaluate all the companies in the Western world according to Islamic index, and then the Arabs will invest only where it is good, high index. And this way, everybody will try to conform to the... So if they want halal, not haram, then that will determine your value, your rating. So this is Islamic index. And then somebody said, okay, we should have a Dharma index also. So I was approached by Swami Dayanand Saraswati, who is no more now. He said that there is this proposal, what do you think? So and so has joined, many gurus joined that we're going to champion it because gurus like anything American, they say, Dharma index sounds good, hum bhi jayenge. So I looked at the content of Dharma index. The content of Dharma index is not about Dharma at all. So I said that, look, for instance, if you have a rating, these are the criteria for being good, these are criteria for being bad. It is not anything to do with the yam niyam of our system. It is not to do with vegetarianism. It is not to do with animal rights. It's not to do with so many things that we consider important. You have to redo the whole thing. So I told Swamiji and he says, okay, cancel. We're not going to get involved in this. Cancel it. And the Dharma index was dropped. That project did not even get off the ground because we complained. So you see, this DEI stuff has not had enough pushback from our leaders who should be pushing back. Development, now United Nations, when the UN in the 50s, when we started in all the 40s, 50s, 60s, it always focused on development, developing economies, underdeveloped, whatever, because the idea was that so many countries are poor, we should develop them. That was the model. And then there was a new thing added that is sustainability. That if they burn coal, if the developing countries burn coal to get the energy they need, then it's bad for the environment. So we need sustainable development. So this idea of compromise was made that we need development, we need sustainability, so they called it sustainable development. And then into the sustainable development, they added social justice and human rights. Now, when you add social justice and human rights, then it opens the door for all the Marxists and all the Maoists and all the people championing Dalits and people championing missionaries. So it opened all these doors. And then finally, this United Nations came up with Sustainable Development Goals 2030, which the countries have signed. India has signed, everybody signed. SDG 2030. Now it sounds very nice, Sustainable Development Goals. But if you start looking at them, there are 17 SDGs, and under those 17, there is a large number of almost 200 more detailed goals. SDG 4 and SDG 6 are the focus of our investigation for this book. These concern education and public health. So if you look at education, so the idea of education that UN is promoting, there is something called comprehensive sexuality education. So we look at what is it. It is not sex education, which is the traditional idea of sex education, meaning you want children to become aware of risks and pregnancy and infections and harassment. So you want to educate them about those things. That is very good, but that is not what this is. This is about enhancing the desires. Enhancing the desires from a young child, sexual desires, telling them that you could be a boy or a girl, it's your choice. You can choose. Do you feel like being a boy or you would like to be a girl? So you touch yourself, you masturbate, you compare notes, you share with each other. All of this going on in schools, start in Europe in a big way and gone to America and now come to India also. India having all these, we're giving you examples where there are projects, some of them at the state level, some are NGOs. They're all done openly with the blessings of Niti Aayog and these things going on. And they are contrary to Indian values, but it is happening. So the comprehensive sexuality education is about, there is a concept called the human rights of a child, and the human rights of a child includes sexual rights. So so the question is, who defines the sexual rights, and who decides that we are going to teach under the garb of sexual rights? We're going to teach these kind of things. This is not our values. Maybe in Sweden it's good. Maybe somewhere in France it's fine, but this is not our values. So do we have a say? When they debated these SDGs, more than 100 countries did not have any say in it. They were allowed to, but they are too poor. They don't have any money. They can't sit and hire consultants. Many of these African countries and all these kind of countries, they did not even have any input. Not that it was banned, but they have no bandwidth left. They don't have enough educated people who are sophisticated to protect their interests. So these things were put through committees. Bill Gates organization they funded a large number of consultants. They gave money and they put in their kind of ideological consultants. So these SDGs were negotiated mainly by the West and China and a few people, and the rest of the world did not have much say, did not opt to participate with their own positions, and so that's how these things happen. Now, besides the comprehensive sexuality education, there is also global citizenship education. Global citizenship education sounds very nice because I would like my kids to be global citizens. Of course, everybody would. But global citizenship education is basically globalist ideology and downgrading national ideology. So you could say in my country it's like this is our idea, but they want to tell the child what are the globalist agenda that every child should have. So whatever is the definition of sustainability, whatever is the definition of diversity, wokeism, these kind of things are fashionable. LGBTQ plus, trans, these are part of globalist education, that these are globalist programs that have to be supported. And so the law is being changed, and there is pressure to change the laws even in India on these matters. So one of the interesting changes is they want to raise the age of marriage for girls and lower the age for sexual activity, sexual consent. Now, why is it that they want 16 to be the age of sexual consent, but 21 to be the age of marriage? So, in those 5 years, sexual consent, sex is legal, but marriage is not legal. Now, this is very interesting. Very interesting. Why would you why would you encourage sex 5 years before marriage is legal? So you are actually promoting premarital sex. Their argument is that lowering the sex age is natural, people are like that, but our tradition says there is discipline. That is what yoga is, it's discipline. There is yam, niyam. It's just because you feel like it doesn't mean you encourage the child. There is also something called discipline. And they feel that the reason for raising the age is because then there'll be fewer children. Many of these people won't have a child, or they'll have fewer children. So to lower the birth rate, you discourage marriage, and you delay marriage. And then in the meantime, those teenagers, you encourage them to be sexually active, and you teach them a lot about birth control and about abortion. And so you teach them how to create a problem and then solve it. Okay, so that's not, so we did not have enough say. Our education people, this was all pushed down through WHO. And that is why Trump has decided to defund WHO. USA is no longer funding WHO. They exit the WHO, cancel their membership to get the point across that this is not our values. So the UNESCO is the one that's bringing the educational wokeism into India from the UN side and various other NGOs. And the WHO is bringing a whole lot of health policies in this regard. And then there is a third entry point is legal. A lot of legal. Tomorrow I'm addressing a group of people in the Delhi who are Supreme Court advocates who invited me to talk about this book from a legal point of view. And the next day I'm talking to Delhi University law faculty also about this book, and I'm looking forward to it. I think they are the right people who understand logically what's going on. So hopefully we'll get some traction there. So these are the three entry points for this wokeism: education, health, law. And that's how we are disrupting our civilizational idea. And somehow we don't have the IKS people pushing back. I mean, they're just busy writing some IKS in a corner, but they have to be part of these committees. I don't see Niti Aayog, when they are bringing in these kind of ideas, I don't see them bringing IKS people and saying, okay, let's give them a Indian response, at least be present. I've tried to be present, but not welcome. See, so that's why we write a book, because then they can't ignore. So they ask me often कि आप ये जो बहुत डिटेल में प्रॉब्लम को एक्सपोज किया है, प्राइवेटली बता दो. Why to go public? I say, because you don't have any time for me privately. I mean, you're so busy and you don't want to listen to all these things. So we write books. And the books do very well. Then there's a big ruckus, and maybe that's how we have to solve problems, because the forums are very protected. We were discussing this morning with Ratanji also. The access is not that open for people like us who are independent thinkers to say, okay, we would like to share our findings with people and at least get a hearing. It's not very easy. So the idea of diversity is another one. You see, diversity, our tradition says, is natural. So there are LGBTQ plus, there are LGBTQ trans people is natural, but it's a small percentage. It is not the mainstream. Whereas the woke idea is that LGBTQ plus and the trans should be made mainstream. So to encourage little children to go for it. Encourage children to experiment and go for it. If they want to go for it, give them the medicines, the chemicals, the drugs to block puberty and change their gender artificially, even surgery, and don't even tell the parents, because that is why the title of the book, Who's Raising Your Children? So there are cases where parents have gone and protested, and they've been told, you don't have the right, because we are authorized by the government to raise your child, and this is the law, these are the child's rights. We are teaching him that he has a right, he may become a girl. If he wants to become a girl, we'll encourage that. And that's his right. And you are the parent. And if you don't listen and don't get out of the way, we can prosecute you for violating his rights, and we can take the child away. So we've given an example of a Indian family in Utah where they decided to pack their bags and come back to India because the child was being taught these things, and they were very concerned. Unlike many parents who are very busy, don't even know, they were very concerned. They went and negotiated, discussed, and spoke to the school authorities and didn't get anywhere. Finally, the school authorities sent them warning that if you keep interfering with your child's education, the point is that you don't know, we are the experts, we are teaching how we are supposed to teach, and you are talking about your values and all that, then we are going to take the child away from you. And once they do that, then it's very difficult to get the child back. So they packed their bags and came to India, just ran away because they didn't want that happening. So there are, these are all examples with data which we've cited. So the question, who is raising your children, beneath that there is a question, who owns your children? Do you really own your children, or somebody else has got more rights over your children? So that's a complete upside down of the Indian value system, because for us, family is very important. So you see, you may want to know, why is woke like that? Why is woke like that? I'll tell you. Woke is an outgrowth of Marxism. Marxism wants to destroy society because they feel they liberate the underclass. Society is abusing the workers, the poor, the underclass, because the rich, the elites, the powerful people are dominating, and this can only be solved with violent revolution. So according to Marxism, every society has oppressors and oppressed. The people who are oppressing and those who are being oppressed. But Marx was very careful. He just said this is economic. He said there's no religion involved here, there is no race involved here, there's no gender involved here, it's only economic. So that was the limit of Marxism, is economic theory. But then in the middle 1900s, during World War II, Marxists expanded, and they came up with something called cultural Marxism, and they said that Marxism should also apply to the cultural means of production, like Bollywood, Hollywood, these education, religion, the things that are cultural are also controlled by the elites. They are also oppressive. They are oppressing the downtrodden. So cultural Marxism expanded beyond economics. But still race was not there. And some of these cultural Marxists came to the United States after World War II. They were in Columbia University, they were in Berkeley, places like that. And so the cultural Marxists who were in Berkeley, during the 1960s, they had race riots, race in America, blacks, whites, race riots. And they realized that now if we add race to the Marxism, we can get the blacks into the Marxist idea. So they added race, and now Marxism expanded to also include race oppression. But still, it was not full wokeism. Wokeism started in the current form when, there was 9/11, Muslims were being, hit back in America, which is sad because you can't blame everybody for what some people have done. So, but anyway, there was a big attack against Muslims, so they had to fight back and change their profile. And a lot of money came from the Middle East to fund, American universities and think tanks and media and educate them about Islam. Islam is great and all that. So, in that, they came up with this idea that the most receptive American people for supporting Islam as oppressed were leftists in universities. So the leftists in universities got a lot of funding from Middle East to support this idea that you should be pro-Palestine, they are oppressed, Israelis are oppressors. And then Kashmir, Kashmir Muslims are oppressed and the Indian state is oppressor. This became a very big thing in all these Ivy Leagues, liberal kind of things. And from there they got into the Democratic Party. There is something called the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. They believe in all this. So this left, the Marxism now has economic Marxism, cultural Marxism, racial Marxism, and Muslims. So now all these campaigns against Islamophobia. Islamophobia means that if you criticize Islam, they'll call you Islamophobia. In some places, you can get thrown in jail, like in England. They can throw you in jail. So much for free speech and all that. But there are not same laws against Hinduphobia. So this is why I argued that if there's Islamophobia, there's Hinduphobia. So my senator in New Jersey was supporting a bill in the U.S. Senate to make Islamophobia a criminal offense. So I protested. I said you should also say Islamophobia, Hinduphobia, Jewish phobia, Christian phobia, Buddhist phobia, every phobia. Why only Islamophobia? So there was enough ruckus that he dropped. He dropped because he was going to make a big case out of this. So you have to fight this like that. You have to fight. So I didn't fight by saying, oh no, Muslims are bad, we have a right to Islamophobia. I didn't do that. I did the other way around. I said, good, we should not have Islamophobia, but we should also not have phobia against any other religion. It should be all the same. And the US Constitution gives that equality. And they had no argument to that, you see. So Muslims became a protected category in the woke thinking. And then Dalits came. Some of the woke champions in these Ivy Leagues are Dalits from India. They brought Harvard and all these places, brought a lot of these Dalits in Columbia and Princeton. They brought all these Dalits to become like big voice. And so they are influencing the US laws and the US media and all this. When you wonder why are they talking about it, it's our own people sitting there who are paid to do this. And they are enjoying. So then came LGBTQ. We are oppressed also by the people who are heterosexual. Because, you see, the theory is that society, there's logic to it. So let's appreciate them. There's logic to it also. The rules of society, the structures of society are made by the elites for their own benefit. So if they made certain constitution, ideas of religion, ideas of family, these are going to protect the male-dominated, upper caste people, heterosexual people. It's meant for them, and they are the chauvinists. And so the Marxist idea is that you have to overthrow these structures. You have to dismantle all these structures in order to liberate the people. So that's the logic to it. Okay. Now, the point is that according to us, according to our idea, LGBTQ have a right, absolute right. They have to function how they want to function. But it is not that everybody should become LGBTQ or we should encourage other people to become LGBTQ and we should expand LGBTQ numbers in order to make them feel comfortable. It is not a clash. It's not a conflict. It is not a quota system. You see, so it is not a quota system that now you have to have a special privilege for LGBTQ. So, you tell somebody, oh, you become LGBTQ, you get through easier, you get through the IAS exam or some corporate will have to hire you or something like that. That is the DEI. That is the problem. The DEI people are encouraging, bringing in these kind of things, race, religion minority, sexual minority, caste minority, etc. And guess who's the latest group entering this? We are oppressed. Khalistanis. Khalistanis in Canada have already convinced the government that they have a certain fast track for refugees who are in threat, whose lives are in danger in their country. So like the Rohingyas got quota. So Khalistanis they are part of the fast track. If you are a Sikh and you want to sponsor somebody from your village, it's like that. Because there are lawyers who already made the case that he comes from village and they are oppressing these Sikhs out there. Actually, the Sikh farmer is the richest farmer. It's no problem. And I keep telling the Khalistani Gurdwara walas that what is destroying the Sikhs in your villages is drugs. And it's Christian conversion. And the World Council of Churches has said that by 2030 there will be more churches in Punjab than Gurdwaras. and there'll be more people attending church every week than gurdwaras. And this is their goal by 2030. And you people are sleeping. That is your real threat. You want Khalistan, but it'll be khalis ho gaya, empty. There'll be no more khali ho gaya. There'll be no more Sikhs there. Sikhs are gone. What Khalistan you make? Stupid people. I tell him that your real problem is not I was giving a talk in Canada, and some group was sitting there. They started shouting, "Down with RSS." I said, "I'm not an RSS guy." And they said, "They're Sikhs." Somebody brought all of them. So then I told the host, I said, "Look, I'll walk out because I don't like this. I came here, you can ask me tough questions, I'll answer them, I enjoy that, but let's be civilized about it. What's all this going on?" So he told them to keep quiet. And he asked one person, "You just explain what is your point." So that guy said that RSS is destroying us, and Modi is destroying us, and India is destroying us, and this and that going on. So I said, "Can I answer, please?" So then they said, he told them, "You keep quiet, let him at least answer." So I told them that the number one problem is drugs, and none of them even knew that, these young fellows shouting. I said, that is not brought by RSS or anybody, this comes from Pakistan, and your Gurdwara walas should be responsible to do something about it, and they have done nothing about it. Maybe they are part of the criminal mafia or whatever it is going on, but the point is your society is being destroyed by drugs and not destroyed by some Hindu upper caste trying to bring Hinduism and convert them, and the conversion is going to Christianity. The biggest church in Asia is in Jalandhar. It is visible from 20 miles. It's a huge thing, biggest. And they are this is in the villages, they're going and converting people like crazy. They're all into drugs. The church provides therapy from drugs to help them out and convert them. And the Gurdwara is not doing this. So this is a real reality. But what is happening is in the Western countries, particularly Canada and Australia, they have convinced the governments that we are oppressed. And as part of the DI, quota hamara hona chahiye. So the DI is a big scam. You have to understand that our people are sleeping. We just accepted all this DI. So now, by the way, Trump sent one plane of illegal Indians in USA back. Most of them are Sikhs. Most of them caught in Gurdwaras because there's a whole smuggling thing going on. They come to Canada, then they smuggle into India, into USA. So anyway, these are some of the topics mentioned here, and I will just close because I want questions. So I think there is a colonization by index. Indexes that are being used to rate us are not necessarily, they're used to control us and rate us, because if you don't behave, your rating will be low, you will not get funding, you will not get investments, you will not get contracts, all this is a way to manage our thinking. So civilizationally, these indexes are not very friendly to us, and because we are not the ones making these rules. And then the other thing I want to tell you is RTE, the right to education, bias is against Hindus, because whenever there's a government policy, let's say comprehensive sexuality education or global citizenship education and things like that, and LGBTQ laws and whatnot, it exempts the minority religions, minority educational institutions. They can say, it's against our religion, we don't want to have it, no questions asked. But non-minority means have to obey. So we are subject to these globalist agendas, and the minority religions are not. So there is an asymmetry in there. And I also want to close by saying that artificial intelligence is being used in all this, is weaponizing these things, because in some of these schools it's very fashionable to give them apps. And they have these apps to learn from peers what is the latest trend and this and that. And these apps have got a whole lot of sexuality education, and these woke ideas are spread out. And there is a lot of AI being used to educate, brainwash, make it exciting, make it entertaining, make it fantasy, come up with all these videos, clips and all. They're very personalized. So the new technology of apps and AI and so on is only making this worse, because the parents are who's raising your children. It's also these apps. It's also the social media. It's also this AI raising. And who controls all that is not our people. It is not somebody in Shingeri Mutt or Kanchi Mutt or Sri or somebody like that, or Sadguru, or who is sitting and developing these algorithms. They're out of it. I mean, I'm trying to get them into it. That you have to get involved in the training of neural networks. Because right now the neural networks are being trained on Washington Post, New York Times, Wikipedia, what the church produces, what Harvard produces, what Max Miller wrote about India. It's being trained on the ideas of India as written by non-Indians and non-Hindus. That is the training material. So I have a product called Ask Rajiv, AI product. We are developing for 3 years. And the Ask Rajiv product is that I'm turning 75. So I said, I can't just do this Q&A forever. So I'm also training people. I've got trained a couple dozen people to take over and answer these questions the way I answer them. But I'm also developing for the last 3 years a product called Ask Rajiv, where we are using my books as training material to learn, to teach the AI how to answer these questions. So if you ask about some about issue, it's not allowed to go look at some public information, but only my books. And we have. It takes a long time to do this because the underlying large language model is already biased. And we do not have a Bharatiya large language model. People are talking about it, but we don't have it. So whatever product you make, it is built on top of a large language model that came from some Western country, and therefore no matter how much you try to brainwash it and teach it and nuance it about, teach only, reflect only Rajiv's ideas, the point is it's already got some ideas. It's pre-educated, But you look at the vision of Qatari government. They are developing a large language model. It's called Falcon. The bird, desert bird. Falcon is a large language model where it is trained on Arabic. All the Arabic literature, Islamic literature, Arabic culture, Arabic history. So it's their world view which this AI system will reflect. And the Chinese are developing where there are the Chinese point of view. You can't criticize their policy on Tibet or this or that. This AI system is like you're talking to a Chinese, a very intelligent person. And that's the AI system. And of course, the Western ones are Western. So we do not have a Bharatiya large language model. I have a whole project report. It costs a lot of money, but I have a whole project report to do a Sanskrit large language model. That will be based on Sanskrit categories. And you'll be able to do interaction in any language, English, Hindi, whatever. But underlying engine will be a Sanskrit engine. And so the understanding of knowledge, meaning, will be based as per our Shastras. Now this, I've got it going around, nobody interested in these things, So this is our problem. We are colonized by AI. We are colonized by large language models also. And so Ask Rajiv is just an attempt to counter that. So that I just want to close here and thank you very much for listening.
Now, before we request Ujjwal ji to address us, open for Q&A to anyone. All three of the guests are kind enough to accept any questions to them.
Suprabhat. I am not here to answer questions. I am here to raise questions. And Rajiv ji will answer. Before I do that, you have seen this book. This cover is very intriguing. You don't know what exactly the cover is. So I'll read a story which is the beginning of this book, which gives you an idea where we are. So the tale is from Bhagavad Puran. In Bhagavad Puran, driven by his malice, I am reading from the book. Aghasur had devised a sinister plan to wipe out the innocent children of holy city of Vrindavan in Mathura, where Lord Krishna is believed to have spent his early years. Aghasur assumed the form of an 8-mile long serpent, disguising his open mouth to look like the entrance of a mysterious cavern in the mountain. His enticing trap appeared like a serene path through a beautiful meadow. Now you compare what your children are learning. His open mouth awaited the unsuspecting children. The children are engrossed in play, mimicking peacocks and chasing birds' shadows. When they come upon Aghasur's mouth, they assume it's a mountain cave. Lured by the beautiful path, the children entered without hesitation, unaware of the impending doom. Elders and parents who typically keep a close watch on the children were absent. Aghasur intended to close his jaws and destroy them from within, exploiting their joyful innocence as bait to suffocate and kill them. The Bhagavad Purana describes the dramatic event as follows. I will not go there. Because you have read Bhagavad Purana, you know that Krishna killed Aghasur. But this is the illustration that where our children are going in the mouth of Aghasur and we are sleeping. With this, I open the session. So you are welcome to ask questions. You can raise your hand. So I'll keep on giving. Yeah, please. Aditya ji. One who asks the question can just take his name and then start question. Next is you. Yeah. Third. Okay.
My name is Aditya Sesh, and my question is to Rajiv ji. Rajiv ji, I bought the book. I have not read it, obviously. But one of the common problems that we face in urban India, when you say who is teaching our children, many times it is part of our own household, the maid system, who are with the children most of the times. How do we address this problem given that there is less parenting?
एक माइक यहाँ दीजिए जरा राजीव जी को. अभी ये दे दीजिए for the timing. ये जरा दे दीजिए. हाँ आएगा एक और आएगा. उधर रखिए.
Good question. Maids raising our children. It's a very, I fully aware of that. And you know, the real thing is, parents are too busy. Parents are not themselves very knowledgeable. I given this talk to young parents and they are saying, चलता है, सब कुछ ठीक है, fashionable है, American ऐसे करते हैं. So, you know, there is a lack of grounding about our own civilization, about our own responsibility. But this book will give some shock to the parents that, you know, this is a certain percent of them, even in India, are going into a trance and getting chemicals that will permanently change, irreversible change your sexuality. So this thing is, unless you control it, this thing is spreading like wildfire in India also. Now Trump is reversing it in USA. He's banned all this stuff in the government, thrown out all these DI people. Some of the private industries like Walmart and all these people have closed down the DI department. So there is going to be a pushback against DI. Now it's good news for me because I've been writing about this for 10 years. और हमारी बदनामी हो रही कि भी आप लोग क्यों sensation कर रहे हो. Now, interestingly, Trump is on our side. So during the transition when they were for his inauguration and all, I was invited by the Trump inauguration and transition team to come to Washington as a VIP for 4 days and interact with the cabinet, and you know I attended many fancy, nice, great events. India में मेरे को किसी ने ऐसे बुलाया नहीं कभी for consultation government ने, but American government ने बुला दिया. So when people say आप यहाँ why aren't you helping our country? अरे भैया, if you are open to it, I'm coming here 4 times a year. I'm more than happy to help. But you have to allow people to speak what they have to say. You can disagree also. So I found I had very good access to some of the important people, some of the thinkers, those who are part of this new government. I'm not part of anything, but I have access. I like that they were so open that because I've written books on woke and all. I've written all these books, so they know about it. So I felt that there is an audience that want to hear these things. And they are taking this knowledge and completely, brutally, very aggressively going after all this whole nonsense of woke and all that in the United States. Trump is doing that. So the question is, will India now also copy this? Pehle to we copied the woke because it was fashionable in America. And we established the whole woke DEI industry establishment in HR departments. Mumbai में तो बहुत ही है ये, बहुत है जैसे. आर्मी में भी डाल रहे हैं थोड़ा सा. They are putting it all these universities में डाल रहे हैं. Now since we are chasing Americans, will India also chase this latest pendulum going the opposite direction or not? So, we have to think. I don't think India should now get rid of DEI for the sake of copying Trump. That means we're always copying them only. I think India should rethink कि हमारी civilization के अनुसार what is the real idea of diversity and inclusion and sexuality and all these woke theories. What is our response? And for that we have written these books. We have written these books that someday Indian intellectuals and policy makers and educators will want to understand at least one view of how Bharatiya thought relates to these same topics. You see, it's not in IKS is not about कि पुराने ज़माने में हवाई जहाज़ था, ये था, वो था, right? It is about applying it to today's policy, and that is the real IKS. And the IKS regime know me very well, and they are very happy to ask how PO be karo. But in terms of actually listening and doing something, we haven't had much. But US government, yes, they are interested in. I met the person who's the head of education, new being appointed now, and this lady introduced someone in her organization whose focus is to dismantle this DEI, woke, all this kind of nonsense, LGBTQ in the education. Completely, they're going to throw it out. So I have a tremendous resonance कि भी हमको कोई तो सुन रहा है ना, कोई मतलब sad that India में नहीं है, but hopefully शायद India में भी maybe Modi will come back and say अरे हम भी woke को निकालो, हो सकता है that we might say we should also get rid of all this DEI. I think they will like it if other countries also join, because for them it's a global problem. And they introduced, the book is introduced by Peter Boghossian, this book and others. He's a very good friend of mine. So he is in this anti-woke. They've started a University of Austin, a new university. Peter Thiel, who's a billionaire, one of these very big billionaire types in America, he gave a lot of money to start a university that will compete against the Ivy Leagues with parallel curriculum, liberal arts and all that, but totally anti-woke. And he is one of the founding faculties members, and he is aligned with us and helping us in all this. So I am happy at the trends that are going on, but I must say that India में apps भी हैं, school भी ऐसे है, maids भी हैं. It's a lot of problem that the parents have to take some responsibility. I would say the gurus have to do something. People listen to gurus. They have gurus and they listen to gurus. Gurus have to take this on and not be politically correct कि मेरे को शायद Nobel Prize मिल जाएगा if I praise everything and I'm not criticizing. कोई Nobel Prize नहीं मिलने वाला. There is no. It is just, you're just selling your authenticity, but कोई Nobel Prize नहीं मिलने वाला.
You have second, yeah, please. While he takes the mic, I remember there is a young boy, naturally born third gender. He runs coaching for DEI, but is not called for that coaching most of the time because he is dharmic. So the DEI coaching also is controlled by left, even in India. Hanji, please.
Okay, Namaste Rajiv sir. I'm Vedang Gupte. I'm a, is it working?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fourth year law student. You mentioned about the sexualization of everything, that is hypersexualization of everything. What is the end goal of these people to sexualize children from a very young age? Is it to supply more children to the global pedophile ring of which Jeffrey Epstein and his client list was a part, or is it anything else?
No. It is to dismantle families. The formal theory they have is that structures that are human structures are bad for the oppressed. So जो आप legal structure है, it was made by elites, okay, and not by me, the oppressed person. So I should overthrow it, like that kind of a thinking, right? So the founding fathers, the constitution, they are against structures made by the elites, not looking at the good side also. Of course there are abuses in the structures, but you can amend them. You don't have to violently overthrow them. So one of the structures that they are against is family. So this woke and gender fluidity and many, many genders is a way to break families. And so actually the people who should be most concerned about all this are parents, because these kids are going to be raised. These kids are a Breaking India army. They are creating Breaking India warriors against family, against culture. And if this is allowed to continue, you will have, जैसे वो Columbia University, Harvard University में those students were rioting against everything, and the problems we had in JNU many years ago, and which have now subsided, and the problems in TIS which have subsided, and in Ashoka University, okay, which are still going on, those problems will become hundredfold worse because of the young generation being raised in schools. When they grow up, they are being raised on this ideology. So it's a bomb. You know, there's a quote here from a Japanese professor. Japanese professor said that this trend that we are criticizing is the third nuclear bomb that will be dropped on Japan. He said the first two were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He says this is a third American bomb being made to be dropped on Japan. And that is his statement, that he says this is how dangerous this thing is for Japanese society.
Yeah, please. Next.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. It's almost afternoon, so good afternoon everyone present over here and the dignitaries on the desk. Namo Namaha. When the last time, sir, we visited in the Prabodhan Thackeray Hall, I had a deep urge to meet you, but unfortunately due to my academic examinations, I couldn't do it. So today I came. I have two questions in a row. So yesterday when I saw the book cover of your book, I was really amazed. My question is that why have you chosen the snake Agasur as your book cover, and there is a garden of enjoyment, and there is even parents are there in those gardens. So what has inspired you to take this as a cover? And my second question is that you are mentioned about external forces, which is currently in India is adopting in the targeting those external forces. And what steps should India take to resist these forces? As a 11th grade student in 16 years, most of my friends are engaged in attending the concerts which are coming from the foreign words, and they are ignoring the roots of India, that is Bharatnatyam and the Kathaks which are there. And those who are following it have been termed as a sanskari in a negative way. So, and often they are disregarded from the friends group. So what steps India should take on this?
Very good. Good questions, both
Thank
of
you.
them. So when we finish a book, I have a lot of inspiration on what's the message. So there's a cover designer who's very talented. So she proposed many of them, many designs. So the idea was we want to show danger which looks attractive. It looks very attractive, but actually it's danger. So there's a danger being camouflaged, and there's a cunning thing that is going to take all these children. So this idea fits that. The Agasur story fits that. So we went through many. The first one was a long snake going zigzagging with the mouth open and children. I said, no, you have to have it facing. The mouth facing when we're walking in is more dramatic. So that's how a book cover goes through maybe 20 iterations and many, many proposals. So that's how I finalized this particular cover. Now, regarding your other question, it is a very important question. Why is it that children find it more cool? You see, this is the problem. We have not made Hindu Dharma cool. That's what we have to do. You have to make it cool, you see. So it cannot be something that, old folks are doing and they used to do it, but it's boring and it's not much fun. It has to become cool. And so the Christians are very good at making the Christianity very cool. I've done so much work in the villages in Tamil Nadu and places like that, and interviewed so many people, and they always said that when they are doing some big event, it's so cool, and they're all celebration, a lot of colors, bright, this, that. So we have to make for our faith cool, and the liberal Marxist, left wing makes sex cool at an age when children are vulnerable. So, their tendency is to go with desires. So, but our tradition tells you that it can also be dangerous. One thing I didn't mention here is that the scores in math, reading, and science have gone down in the last 10 years in India, while DEI is going up. Because the incentive for how you evaluate a teacher in a school system is based on how much DEI you have, how much LGBTQ you have, how good are you in human rights, these kind of things, rather than teaching them knowledge which will get them a job. So we are ignoring the education that is really practical for the nation building and for family building and individual building, and giving them things that are fashionable, desire oriented. So one of the philosophies of our education, our philosophy, is that a student has to be disciplined, not just go wild with desires and not study. Because that is what it is, what these people are trying to do. They are unleashing sexuality, which is the most powerful desire that young people may have. So that's the problem. And the parents are not raising the children. Parents are not around. Parents themselves are confused. Okay, gurus are not playing a role. The Indian government has to step in, like the Chinese government has done. They don't have this kind of nonsense in Chinese schools. In Singapore, they threw this out. In many countries, they have blocked this, even though it's a UN mandate, because they have said that our laws and culture overrides. The UN mandate for SDGs says that it cannot be implemented if it violates the local laws. That says that. So we need to have our local laws. That is why this gentleman here is so important. We need to get to know each other, because I need to understand how to do all that. How do we get Indian lawmakers to understand this problem and create laws such that then the school system has to abide with those laws? That's the solution, I would think.
In Shivnadar school, you would have read the news that when they started comprehensive sexual education, the parents suddenly woke up and they made a huge protest, and that was stopped. Yeah, please.
Namaste, Sudhir Kanvinde. Very informative session, and I was part of Vision 2030, and one of the big five was a consultant for that, and I can connect few missing dots. My question, sir, is AI shaping currently, because every student, from school to college, even professional, they are using AI for very small things or drafting projects. And so what steps parents should take so that critical thinking or independent thinking stays, and everything is not brainwashed with AI?
This is a very important point. I have written a different book called Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Power. Please read it. I think it's available outside. And that's a book on this very issue. What is AI doing? What is good about AI? A lot of good things. And what is the danger of AI and what we have to do about it. So basically, turning your brain over to the AI, making the AI like a new adhikari, new deity, new guru, कि जो इसने बोला है, अब ये chat GPT ने कह दिया तो ठीक ही होगा. This is very dangerous, because this means that the mental faculties will atrophy. If you don't use your faculties, you won't have them. So, and also the faculty will not only atrophy, it will surrender itself and do gulami to these systems that are controlled from somewhere else. Somebody else. So it's an indirect colonization. You are colonized through AI by people who are actually owning this AI system, and they're not Indians. Indians may be engineers working for them, but the product that they do is not owned by Indians. It's intellectual property owned to Microsoft or OpenAI or Facebook or whoever. Indians may be the one doing the work. We are very proud कि बहुत सारे Indians हैं, हमको कोई problem नहीं है. But Indians तो नौकरी कर रहे हैं ना. We are just doing some नौकरी there. The real owners are somebody else. So this realization has to come. And India has to invest more seriously into its own AI. We can't stop it. It's like unstoppable, like nuclear energy, like so many things. You know, India, thanks to Bhabha, said, okay, we're going to invest in nuclear power, nuclear science, because we cannot be left behind this atomic energy. And India also invested in space. So now why not in AI? Why not in semiconductors, AI, robotics, quantum computing? We're starting in semiconductors, but still 10 years, 15 years behind, very small scale. It's good to start at least. But the Chinese did a very wise thing. They started 15 years ago saying that we'll block foreign coming into our country. We will learn from them and steal those ideas and improve upon them, but we will build our own. So they have their own version of Facebook and Google and YouTube and all these things, they have their own version. And these things are very, very highly rated because they have experience developing it. Why didn't Reliance say we're going to build our own open AI? Why didn't Mahindra say, okay, we're going to build an operating system, a search engine? I mean, I've been writing about this. I'm a tech product. I've been writing about this, that outsourcing our knowledge to is like renting the brains of smart people to make money. आपने अपने जो लायक लोग हैं उनको किराए पर बेच दिया है. And they, of course they'll make money, and the billionaire will be made who's got lakhs of such people sold. He'll make money. India will get repatriation. But that's very short-term thinking. Short-term thinking. Because imagine that the effect of all those brains is that they have built these trillion-dollar companies, and now we are licensing the product back which our own people made. So it's a stupid thing. It's a short-sighted thing. It says, they're making a fool out of us. We have not demanded equity in those products where we are building. Some of them we are making physically in India only. The Microsoft people and all these Facebook people are tens of thousands of them in India building products where we own zero right. They own the right. And then through another door, it comes back and they license it to us and make a ton of money. So we think we are getting ahead because we are making money selling our brains, but actually they are making $1 trillion economy out of it. So this is the ministry has to do, the Ministry of Electronic and whatever it is, IT people, everybody thinking in little cocoon, not connecting the dot and thinking about nation building. This is all nation building which needs to be happening, and people have to demand the policy makers, whoever they are, whichever ministry, that they have to wake up. They have to answer this question.
There was a suggestion yesterday where you're discussing that government could charge some taxes to all these big techs because the biggest users are Indians.
Yeah, what you could do. I mean, I have a proposal. I mean, I've written all these. They aren't responding. But I've said that India, these AI models require data for training. Big data is called. The data is the new oil. That's what they say. That is the raw material that you need for this economy. India has a large part of it, large data, because not only number of people, but also diversity. The Indian data is very diverse, the kind of people there are. But it's being given free. So I would have proposed that whatever percent of, let's say take Facebook as an example, whatever percent of global data that they use for AI training, whatever percent comes from India, right? Let's say it's 25%. We should say that 25% of this AI technology belongs to us because we've trained that much. Something, maybe they'll give you less, but they'll give you something. So, 3 companies are worth $10 trillion. India's whole economy is what, 4 or 5 trillion. I mean, you look at NVIDIA, you look at Apple, you look at Microsoft, they add up to over $10 trillion. $10 trillion, 3 companies only. The total tech industry market value, you are industry people, investment people. Do you know the total tech industry worldwide market value? 3 companies are 10 trillion, right? And the rest of the next 10, 15 companies are another 10 trillion. So that's 20 trillion. Then when you add Chinese companies, European companies, it's somewhere around $35 trillion of market value of the tech industry. The total IT export, these TCS and all that, is about 400 billion, something like that. That's 1%. And we are very proud that we are the software king. The value of all software industry as far as value of those shares is concerned, market value is concerned. Employees, yes, employees get good salary and all that, that's different. But as far as the equity value is concerned, the equity value of the Indian tech industry is 1% of the total global tech industry. So we have failed to create equity. Okay, but we are making a lot of think about that we have 4 million people who do this and that, we want more H1B. I thought would be happy if they block all H1B and make them sit here and develop technology for India. In fact, they asked me what should be a top of Modi's negotiation, and all these government people thought the H1B. I said H1B should not be on the list for two reasons. Firstly, I'm not even sure it's very good for us to send these people. Secondly, let Microsoft argue that because they need those people. Let Google argue, let Apple argue. Why are you claiming it like they're doing a favor to us? When they raise the issue of H1B, you should say, listen, you want them, you can have them. You don't want them, you cannot have them. Ask all these tech people. They will tell, they have so much clout, they will convince the US government for their sake. Why are we so weak and lack of strategy? We should demand, our agenda should be other things like what's happening in Bangladesh. Right? We should have other agendas where we want something, not put as an agenda item what is actually they want. So this is strategy for negotiation.
Thank you so much. We could keep on asking questions and there will be no end, but there is a limit to the time that Ujjwal ji has. And even people would like to go home. We are not providing lunch. So I request Ujjwal ji to have his concluding remarks.
Dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. Rajiv ji, really I must confess, when I was invited to inaugurate this book, I was in dilemma. What is that book? On what topic it is written? And after hearing you, I have no doubt that this book is going to make a revolution in Indian thoughts, because this is an eye-opener to those Indian parents who still now wants that their children should take birth in US, in England, so that they should get their citizenship, etc. But they will think twice. Rajiv ji, I am practicing on the criminal side. We lawyers are very interesting person. We write 10,000 word document, but still we call it as brief. So I will be very brief in my making submission and appealing to you all. But Rajiv, you have coined one wonderful term, that you have investigated certain problems. I had an occasion while conducting many serious criminal trials against the criminals, and one problem which I was facing, and I opened this problem also on an international platform when I had attended the conference, that whether we can reduce the age of a juvenile. US has opposed. US said, no, we have the international standard, we can't oppose that juvenile age standard. They asked me, what's the reason? I told them that suppose tomorrow any enemy country will send their trained boys below 16, below 14, with a special training of how to handling AK-46 rifle and etc. And we had an experience when Ajmal Kasab and his 9 terrorists had attacked Mumbai on the night of 26 November. Ajmal Kasab was the only lone surviving terrorist. The moment I opened my case as a prosecution case against him, he got up and he said, "Sir, मैं नाबालिग हूँ, आप आपके कानून के मुताबिक मेरे पर केस नहीं चला सकते." See, it's a very difficult task. See, he was a small boy and he was claiming that he's juvenile. We had no evidence how to prove whether he's a juvenile or he's an adult boy. So I requested the judge to have his ossification test of the bones, and on the basis of the ossification test, the judge will decide whether he's juvenile or not. Fortunately, the panel of doctors was appointed and ultimately we got a confirmation because Pakistan was not cooperating. So ultimately the doctors panel had opined that his age is about 24 years old. So that is the how still there are burning issues. I must request the gentleman who has published this book that get it translated in the Hindi and in Marathi also, because this is necessary. Because every parent should read it. What is the, you have talk about the sexologist, the problem. Absolutely correct. Nowadays, we recent one case in the Badlapur, that girl aged 7 years, she was sexually abused by the watchman of that school. And I called that mother, "Ki, how you trained your daughter? How she made a complaint to you?" She told me, "Ki, sir, I told my daughter ki, what is good touch and bad touch." See, unfortunately in our country, every mother is not that way vigilant, so she can teach the children. But because of her teaching, that girl, small girl, 7 years, made a complaint that a watchman had given me bad touch. So that is how that crime case was opened. I won't take much time, but at last I can say, really, I am honored to attend this lecture, and I will be in touch with you. And you have said whether we can make certain internal laws which can, you see, nowadays every parent wants that their children should take education in convent high school, and in convent high school they bring the all the syllabus from the outside India, and we are forgetting our Indian values in the culture. So really, I'm very kind. It's my great luck that to have interact with you and to share the dais. So we are looking forward also to meet you again. Thank you very much.
Can I thank you very much? Thank you very much. I think we would love to have somebody translate this book into Marathi and Hindi. If there is anyone who want to take responsibilities, I can't manage it, but you have to take full responsibility. We'll give you rights to do it, and we would love to collaborate.
Request Prachi Ambedkar to do that. She has translated Nikam
We have to make the publicize the book. What are the disadvantages? Why our Indian values should be?
Sure.
We will initiate the need of the time now.
Lady can contact him directly.
No, in fact, I'm sorry. I had spoken with Mr. Dr. Zankar, who had met me with his colleagues. I spoke, I am interested in getting these books translated. In fact, that is why I attended today's meeting. I wanted a personal talk and
So if you contact us through him.
and not this book. I will start from that breaking it.
No, I understand.
Let it go.
Yeah, but this book is also necessary.
Of course.
This is particularly about the
Breaking
children.
India is the
If
first,
you,
that is the
if
beginning.
you write to us, we will.
And second, I had a say, because I think this fellow stopped my friend from question. I wanted to have an answer, not for questioning. These books also should be printed in pocket book size.
Yes.
Because students generally going for, and for them this is really high price. We don't want so decorative designs, etc. These books like your caste, Jati caste and this book, smaller version, without much style and smaller font. So it will be circulated easily.
If somebody approaches us and says, okay, give me the right, I will make small books.
I definitely will be interested in doing that. From our side means my institution is also there.
I'm so busy writing new books, I need people.
I understand.
You should take this over and I'll be happy.
Okay. If you tell me, give me a contact
Yes.
of your side or person or somebody, she will go.
He will give you and you will write to him.
And on so the last point which I wanted to really make up, according to me, Mr. Modi, our recent Prime Minister, is very apt on these happening technologies, etc. Though he appears to be a Hindutwadi, means old-fashioned, as we say. But I knew Lal Krishna Advani was also very tech-savvy. We have already replaced the what you call these banking systems of Visa.
You can talk after the stage because we
No, 1 minute. We have already started our own system called RuPay. Then we have already introduced Maples, Make My Trip. To counter Google mapping, we have Maples. Make my, that is I have on my mobile. Navi. So, and last, the Independence Day speech of Mr. Modi also said something about artificial intelligence. So as you said, I think Mr. Sarda will be the right person to contact you, and Mr. Nikam will make you contact with those people, because he already had that thing in mind to create everything nationally. We have already replaced Google and this. I think this artificial intelligence also will be replaced. Thank you.
Sorry for stopping Mr. Shahane to ask question, but we can do it backstage. May I request Dr. Jankar to propose the vote of thanks?
Namaskar. Before proposing vote of thanks, I would like to tell you in brief about Bharat Manthan Foundation. Bharat Manthan Foundation is not for profit company which functions as a platform for continuous two-way exchange of ideas and implementation of initiatives of common good. Its founders, as responsible citizens, have been engaged in a variety of cultural, educational and developmental activities with active participation of local residents in social initiatives. We welcome Hindu Nava Varsha every year by doing Gudi Pujan, organize cultural, educational, sports programs with involvement of children and youth from cross-section of society. During past 5 years, under the banner of Manthan, we have organized talks by eminent personalities to educate community about implications of policy initiatives, impact on economy, and to build support for good governance started by government. Bharat Manthan Foundation is funded by donations and memberships. Now I propose vote of thanks. I thankful to Infinity Foundation for giving us this opportunity to release this book. We are personally grateful to Shri Rajiv Malhotra for agreeing to be here and enlighten us. We are also grateful to Shri Ujjwal Nikam for accepting invitation to be the chief guest of this function. We are thankful to local management of Deccan Education Society. We are thankful to artist Yogesh Kolge for his designing. We are thankful to Ratan Sharda, who is always there to help us in such events. We are thankful to Shri Vijay Paradkar for compiling this event. We are thankful to our all well-wishers and donors. We are thankful to Shri Visuva Bapat, who is going to sing Vande Mataram after this. And last but not the least, thanks to all of you who attended this function. Yeah. I have a small announcement. On 2nd March, we have similar function at the same place, same timing. We are going to have one more book released written by Ramesh Patange. It is going to be in Marathi. आम्ही संघात का आहोत आणि त्याची प्रकट मुलाखत शरदमणी मराठे घेणार आहेत. ते आहे तिकडे आता 2 मार्चला 10 वाजता याच ठिकाणी.
Rajiv has to leave quickly, but those who want to take autograph after the program is over, they can come here and get the book autograph.
Thank you. Subha.
वंदे मातरम सुजलां सुफलां मलयज शीतलां सस्यश्यामलां मातरम वंदे मातरम शुभ्रज्योत्स्नां पुलकितयामिनीं पुल्लकुसुमिता द्रुमदलशोभिनीं सुहासिनीं सुमधुरभाषिणीं सुखदां वरदां मातरम वंदे मातरम कोटि कोटि कंठ कल कल निनाद करारे कोटि कोटि भुजैर्धृत कर करवाले के बले मा तुम्ही अबले बहुबलधारिणीं नमामि तारिणीं रिपुदलवारिणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरं तुम्ही विद्या तुम्ही धर्म तुम्ही हृदय तुम्ही मर्म त्वं हि प्राणा शरीरे बाहुते तुम्ही मा शक्ती हृदये तुम्ही मा भक्ती तो मारै प्रतिमा गणी मंदिरे 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 वंदे मातरम त्वं हि विद्या दश प्रहरणधारिणीं कमला कमलदल विहारिणीं वाणी विद्यादायिनीं नमामि त्वां नमामि कमलां अमलां अतुलां मातरं श्यामलां सरलां सुस्मितां भूषितां धरणीं भरणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरम वंदे मातरम भारत माता की
One day.